You already saw the title and thumbnail. In this video, we'll be ranking every single character in Jujutsu Kaisen from weakest to strongest, with characters who can manipulate reality to gods who can slice through space itself. Keep in mind, I will not be including Module in this list because I don't want to reread it. We will also be separating characters by tiers with default human, grades 4 through 1, low special grade, mid special grade, high special grade, and then finally at the top, Calamity grade. So yeah, like and subscribe, and let's hop into the video. Now entering the absolute bottom of our tier list, we have just the default humans. Not only would they not be useful in any combat scenario, but I am 100% confident in being able to beat the dog shit out of these guys. So now let's get to our absolute weakest character in the entire series. Drum roll, please. Riko. She's just a 16-year-old girl. I am literally picking her up over my head before using the Bane back-breaking finisher on her. She is getting absolutely dog walked by me and everyone else in the verse, so that's why she's taking our lowest spot at 89th place. Now, one above the 14-year-old girl, we have Akari Nita, the assistant Jujutsu High Manager. Literally just a default human who can barely see curses and was also completely put out of the fight after taking one kick from this freak. Overall, only scales higher than Riko because I would assume a grown woman could take a 14-year-old girl in a fight, but she still really is a non-factor in a fight. Once more, I'm throwing her into the air and then hitting a 360 no-scope drop kick, eviscerating her. Now, one tier higher, we have the guy who everyone was mad at me in the last video for putting his curse technique so low, but it's Rin Amai, this pudding spawning shitter. First person on our list to also have a curse technique. He has the ability to increase sugar levels in his body and can manifest in physical form, usually being pudding. Only problem is that it makes him lightheaded, or in other words, his curse technique is useless for combat. His only use was to 1% barely help Yuta in the Shinjuku Showdown by healing him, but he goes above the two just because he's a man and naturally he's gonna be stronger. But once again, I dog walk this shitter. He's a man in genetics only, but this guy has no balls. He hangs out with bullies because he's scared to get on their bad side and be normal. This dude is LARPing as a bully. Yeah, straight to the Shadow Realm. He's getting bodied. And now, finally, in our top of default human tier, we have Remy. This bitch is beyond weak and useless. She actually has an offensive curse technique, but this thing is a joke. When Megami wasn't looking, she stabbed him from behind, but he just turned back mildly annoyed as it didn't affect him at all. I rank her higher than the others in this tier, but I'm gonna be so for real, I would still absolutely demolish her in a fight. Her stinger literally does nothing to Megami, so she can try to stab me as much as she wants, but I'm literally tanking that shit like Yuji, and I'm absolutely one-tapping her. Next, one tier higher, we have the 4 characters I decided to put in the grade 4 tier of power. These are the characters, according to the story, that have very beginner levels of Jujutsu, but are more or less just still absolute crayon-eating fodder. In 85th place, we have Goat Wee Wee. I actually really like Wee Wee, and in a fight, he's useful as support, but by himself, he really can't do anything. His curse technique is basically just teleportation, which, like I said, is useful in group fights as a supportive piece to move people around, but by himself, he's just a kid. I could maybe beat him in a fight, but if he's just teleporting around like crazy with a knife or something, I'd probably lose. I'd say my chances of beating him are like 40%. Now, one higher, I don't really know where to put her, but we have Tengen. Tengen isn't really a fighter, so ranking her power is weird because she is like top 3 in the verse when it comes to knowledge on barriers, but as a fighter, she's more or less just a person. Kenjaku himself said to consider Tengen a non-factor when it came to fighting. Now, being one of the best barrier users in the verse gets some credit because she could probably just contain weaker beings or something. I don't really know, to be completely honest, what they can or can't do with barriers, like the full extent, but I know if I were to get close enough to her, I'm once again throwing her against a wall and hitting a black flash on little bro. Then at the 83rd place, we have Arata Nita, another non-combatant sorcerer that specializes in healing. He has much better control over cursed energy, so in a normal fight, he's probably physically above a lot of humans, but I doubt he's even as strong as like episode 1 Yuji. He's also only 16 years old, so I don't know, man. I feel like I have a decent chance to beat him in a fight. Maybe at least like 20%, I don't know. And then finally, we have Mai, this turbo dog. There is no one I like to slander more in the story than this shitter. She was given grade 3, but I just think that's crazy cope. The only reason she's even a threat is because of her pistol, but I don't really think that should count. If you gave me a gun, I'm killing the same amount of curses as her. She barely has any cursed energy, and because of that, her curse technique is ass. So truthfully, I believe without her pistol in a fight, I'm grabbing her by the neck and hitting her with the most vile RKO the world's ever seen. Now we finally enter grade 3. These are the characters with the strength comparable to a small handgun, but some other characters are in here for different reasons. And as much as it pains me to say it, this is the tier where I really don't think I could beat any of these guys in a fight. First up is Ichichi, the manager of Jujutsu. He's good with barriers and can summon some default Shikigami, so already I probably couldn't do anything, but yeah, he's still insanely weak. Now one level higher, we have the GOAT of the series himself, Sigma Male Junpei. His curse technique is Moondregs, a weird jellyfish thing that transmits poison while having tendrils to fight with. Easily overpowered by a holding back Season 1 Yuji, but he could probably farm anyone under him. Next, we have the Seance Granny. This one's weird because her potential could be much higher depending on which body she has access to, but she's not really suited for combat, usually assassination missions. Another thing to keep in mind is her Seance technique takes a bit of time with no distractions, so if you were to just throw her in the ring with no time to prepare, she just becomes a normal old lady. And at that point, once more, I absolutely body her in a fight. Sadly, this is probably the last character I can cope myself into beating. Everyone above her would spread my cheeks. Nearing the top in 78th place, we have Kuroi, the maid. She claims to be a non-combatant, but was low-key cooking box guy for the few seconds she fought. So, sure, fuck it, why not? She can go up here. Then at the top of the grade 3 sorcerers, we have Shoko, another non-combatant sorcerer who is a healing specialist in JJK. She did missions with Geto and Gojo back in the day, so she could probably hold her own in certain scenarios, but the main reason I'm putting her so high is her ability to use reverse curse technique, one of the best in the show, plus one of the only few who can use it on others. When trying to fight her, no matter how much damage you do, she just heal it. I really just don't think anyone underneath her on this list even has the capabilities to out DPS her healing by themselves, so yeah. Now entering grade 2 with the sorcerers that are more or less comparable to a shotgun. I'll just be honest and say this will probably be the least accurate tier since it's filled with no-namers with very little feats. So I'm going to be doing a lot of educated guessing. But at our bottom 2 spots, we have Nanako and Mimiko. 2 random ghetto minions that more or less don't really have any of their feats other than getting diddled by Jogo and Sukuna. Mimiko has some kind of voodoo doll technique, but we just don't really know how strong it is because we don't see enough of it. And then I would probably rank Nanako above her because we've at least seen her use her phone technique to teleport and save them from Jogo's fire. And as much as I want to put this absolute dog at the bottom of the list, he's probably at least grade 2 as he beat up Nobara, even if it wasn't the most absolute 1 in a million lucky move the world has ever seen. But sadly, a win is a win. So as much as I hate this guy, he's around here. Now a bit higher, we have the propeller hair guy and the airplane hair girl. These guys are low-key cheeks, and Yuji clapped both of them with his strong extreme low diff. These two are so shit that they literally bait the spawn point for kills because they aren't even confident enough to a fair fight. Still, probably beat everyone below them, but really grade 2 to me just feels like battle of the mid, so you never know 100%. Next, we have the Seance Granny's grandson, Ino, a semi-grade 1 sorcerer, stated this guy was boring and not that strong, so by that logic, he's probably near the bottom of grade 2. Now, entering our top 70, we have the Box Shitter. He has the ability to clone himself up to 5 times, I think, and can choose which body the main one is. We don't really have that good of an idea of his strength because, you know, he had one of the worst matchups of all time going against Gojo, but based on his showing against the maid, I can't imagine he really goes that much higher than this. This was one of the first threats we found in Shibuya, but he really just seemed like a much weaker version of Yuji after season 1. And at the end of the season, Yuji is recommended for grade 1, so it makes sense to put him in grade 2. Now we have the shitter coat rack guy. Seemed confident in taking down Principal Gakuganji, but he didn't look that concerned. Once again, just another dog Gojo victim that just sucks. This one's a weird one because apparently reading the wiki, Yuji and Mei sensed he was stronger than the grasshopper curse, but Mei absolutely spread its cheeks off screen, so I don't really feel like he deserves a spot much higher than his. Next, we have this old Shikigami user that Geto fought in the hidden inventory arc. He seems like a fairly experienced sorcerer, but he pretty much got no diffed by Geto. Obviously, he's one of the stronger characters, so we can't take that much away from him. But based on his confidence and age of experience, sure, why not? He's here. Getting closer to the top of grade 2, we have Chizuru. This guy's an actual dog. He got farmed by Megami so fast, he never even got to use his technique. But Reggie wouldn't work with anyone if they were too weak, so nah. Next in 63rd and 64th, we have these 2 randoms who are up here straight up only because, quote-unquote, they were commanders in Geto's army. So I would assume they're at least decently strong, but they were clearly shown to be weaker than Goat Lore during Season 2, so that's why they're down here. And this guy doesn't have a curse technique, but he's the leader of the Zenin clan's Kukuri unit, which is filled with people who just train all day. No one in his unit survived against Maki for even 1 attack, but it took her at least a few seconds to kill bro, so that's gotta be worth something, right? Near the very top of our grade 2 fighters, we have Ketsuzu, Choso's younger brother. He's overall pretty fucking weak, even considering he's a special grade object. I think the only redeeming quality he has is his rot technique. This poison is pretty problematic for most characters if it were to hit him, but he wasn't even much of a match against Season 1 Nobara as a fighter, so I can't put him much higher than this. Then breaking our top 60 at the top of our grade 2 tier, we have Principal Gakuganji with his guitar amp music technique thing. He held off Juzo fairly easily, but he really just seems more like a character in power because of his position in politics versus his own strength. He later kills Yaga, but it didn't really seem like he fought back at all, so I don't think this is really a feat. Finally entering grade 1.5 or semi-grade 1. These are the characters that don't deserve grade 2. They're not that weak, but they probably couldn't hang in grade 1. First off, starting our list is purely off statements, not feats, but Momo. In terms of feats, she's like grade 3, maybe grade 4, being completely useless against stronger characters and losing to early season 1 Nobara. But if the source material says she's semi-grade 1, then I guess we have to respect it. Although a lot of us kind of know Gege isn't the most reliable source. Next, in 58th, we have Udahime, just clearly stated to be a semi-grade 1 sorcerer. But she's more of a supportive character with her curse technique, Solo Forbidden Area, that raises her and her allies' curse energy output. So yeah, she just barely scrapes by. Next, we have Goat Panda. He's kind of just a strong overall fighter. That's more or less it. In 56th, we have Chojuro, seemingly one of the weaker fighters out of the elite fighter group of the Zenin clan, just a wrinkly old guy with earth bending as his curse technique. He was able to surprise Maki and crush her with these giant hands, but it does nothing as he instantly gets folded like a lawn chair dying. So I think this spot's fair. Next, another Zenin clan member is Ranta, probably a top 5 supportive fighter in the entire verse with the ability to keep characters stuck in place. Only problem is if he tries to hold a character too strong like Maki when she first awakened, he can accidentally overdo it, killing himself in the process. But to be fair to him, this is one of the strongest characters in the series. In a 1v1 setting, he can probably keep most characters from moving long enough to have a free win, but against much stronger characters that are higher in this list, he just doesn't have enough juice in the tank. But as I said before, he is great in team fights. He's probably one of the most useful people to have. One above Ronto, we have the other brother of Choso and Esso, clearly shown to be superior to his younger brother. But once again, he's kind of just up here because of his curse technique, but as an overall fighter, he's kind of mid. Next, we have Ino, Nanami's disciple. He's only grade 2, but by choice for some reason. As Nanami says, he could easily be grade 1.5 if he wanted. His curse technique is Auspicious Beast Summon, which can grant the user the power of 4 spirits. One lets him shoot a horn thing that's extremely hard to dodge or stop. One lets him cover his body in this magic liquid to reduce damage and improve movement speeds. One is basically like pumping Tren, and it also acts like a pain number, although it does make him tired afterwards. And finally, he can summon a fucking dragon thing to help him fight. Sure, why not? Overall, the reason he's up here is because his technique's very adaptable, so it can deal with a lot of different scenarios. Next is Kamo, and truthfully, I kind of just think this guy's a bum. I don't know. I never liked him, but he is classified as a semi-grade 1, so I guess I'll put him up here. He was kind of getting farmed by Season 1 Megami, but he did help, I guess, a little bit against Curse Naoya. So that's gotta be worth at least something. Next up is one of our main trio members in Nobara Kugisaki. I really wanted to rank her higher because I actually really do like her character. But bro, there's only so far I can stretch these feats. I'd say her best feats are farming the Mahito clone, but this thing didn't even have a technique, and the second she versed the real one, she insta-died. She also, in Season 1, beat Momo, who's technically grade 1.5, so that's a feat. Plus that time she actually landed a Black Flash, unlike... She was also recommended for grade 1 by the end of Season 1, but as much as I'd love to agree with this, it's just Glaze. And I know in my heart, she lost to fucking Haruta, which is a disgrace to all of Jujutsu sorcery. Also, once Nanami appeared, who isn't even that strong of a grade 1, just an average one, he no-diffed Haruta, showing the insane gap between them. So, no, she's not grade 1, unfortunately. Now, cracking our top 50, we have Inumaki, the cursed speech user of the verse. Just like Ranta, our boy has one of the best supportive weapons in the entire verse. He can just say freeze, and even if you're the strongest in the verse, no matter what, you will be frozen for at least a second, giving people openings. But on his own, he's kind of a hit or miss character. If he is stronger than you, he'll probably almost always win. The problem, though, is that if he has to punch up even a bit, the recoil will damage him too much, almost guaranteeing him to lose. Definitely a strong character and ability, but as I mentioned before, he's much more suited to group fights. If he fought with Higuruma and waited for him to get the Executioner Blade, there's really 0 opponents in the verse who could survive that few second interval they were paused. Overall, well deserved of our top 50 spot. Now, almost at the top of our grade 1.5 tier, we have the GOAT, Lore, heart nipples and all. His physical prowess is extremely high, and he seems to be the second strongest out of all of Geto's minions, and his ability to heart catch is super clutch and be able to grab and probably crush people from a distance. He can also use this technique to force attention to him, in which we saw was peak for group fights. The way I view him is just a superior version of Inumaki. He has the same supportive ability as Inumaki to help teammates get openings, but he doesn't have that crazy recoil effect killing him. Okay, I'm aware he takes some damage back on the hand, but whatever. Plus, he's just physically superior as well, so yeah, overall, he's my GOAT and deserved top 50 spot. Now at the absolute top of this tier, we have Jiro. This guy is kind of goofy to rank. As an actual fighter, he's far below a lot of the previous people I just mentioned, but his curse technique of inverse is just so goofy to fight against for most people. Megami has one of the highest battle IQs in the entire series, but without him there, Yuji's just never figuring out what's going on and he loses. That's how I feel it would go with most of the characters under him, even probably some above him, but I would still bet on all the grade 1s to pull through. Overall, kind of a weak character, but he's carried by a busted technique. Now, folks, we have entered the grade 1 sorcerers. This is the peak an average sorcerer could hope to aim for. The missions these guys go on are extremely dangerous, and even a military tank probably wouldn't be enough to deal with what they deal with. So, at the bottom of grade 1 is one of the Zenin clan's elite fighters, Junichi. He has the curse technique of Missile Fist, which is basically just bombing the entire ground field with massive punches. Shown to do big damage to the landscape, but didn't even tickle Maki's balls as he got off-screened. Now, one above Junichi, we have Rakujushi, the weird sumo guy. This guy is just kind of clearly above Junichi in my mind because we watched both them fight Maki. Against Junichi, she insta-killed him, but against this guy, he was able to react to her speed and beat her in sumo wrestling. Now, obviously, Maki wasn't bloodlusted here, but okay, he's definitely cooler than this wannabe aura farming monkey, so he goes above him for me. Next up, we have my GOAT femboy, Kirara. Also, I made this joke in the last video, and some of you Giga nerds got mad over it. If you get mad over me calling this clear trans character a femboy, you just gotta get a grip and reevaluate your life. But ignoring that, Kirara is easily grade 1 in my mind. She obviously doesn't have as much output as some of these other characters, but her technique is so busted. It's disgusting to try to figure out in a fight. Megami, like how he did against Jiro, was probably one of the only few characters in the entire verse to figure it out because of his insane battle IQ. But 99% of characters in this verse would never figure this shit out mid-combat. I explained her technique in my rank and every technique video, but basically all you gotta know is that she marks multiple objects with different star names from random star constellation, and you have to approach them in a specific order or you'll just never reach her, or your cursed energy or techniques. Overall, super confusing. Most people are never figuring this out, and she'll just body most characters. Then one higher, we have Hana or Angel. She is a very interesting one to rank because she doesn't really come off as much of a fighter. She just has like one busted technique that makes her difficult to deal with. Forced technique release in the form of Jacob's ladder. By launching a pillar of light from the heavens, she eviscerates whatever it hits and forces any technique to be extinguished. For example, she can pass through barriers freely and even open the back of the prison realm to free Gojo. Also, as you could surmise, her ability could also go straight through his infinity the same way the inverted spear of heaven could. Her technique is extremely effective against cursed objects, which is kind of what Sukuna was, so that's why her technique did so much damage to him. Plus, having wings to fly around makes her much harder to fight as she's out of reach for a lot of characters. Overall, definitely a very strong character and deserving of our spot. Next in 43rd is Nanami, the perfect example of a grade 1 sorcerer. Now, the main reason he's near the bottom of grade 1, in my opinion, is just his extreme lack of hacks or useful abilities. It's decent, don't get me wrong, but some others in grade 1 just eclipse him easily. His technique of 7-3 creates a weak point in his opponents at a ratio of 7-3. Surprise, surprise. And it's basically just him hitting a crit. That's cool and all, but we've really seen that when you have no hacks or weird techniques, he really can't punch up at all. Unfortunate to say because his character's cool, but he's kind of just a mid-grade 1 sorcerer with no sauce. Now, one higher, we have this weirdo Reggie. Overall, kind of one of the best all-arounders in the show with how adaptable his curse technique is. He can summon whatever is on his receipts, and we can more or less say he just has whatever he wants on hand. We see him summon pianos, mopeds, helmets, cars, plants, fucking rock climbing walls. May as well just give him whatever the plot needs him to have. And with this, he more or less can fight in any scenario and perform at least decently. Plus, if he had a receipt for a 3-day stay in a relaxing hotel, it basically just acts as a full heal. Kind of cracked. His only weakness is getting wet, as we saw, but other than that, he's a great fighter. Next, I don't know about this Charles placement too much, but I think he should be around here. In his fight against Akari, he did actually beat him, quote unquote, before his insane healing came into play. Now, obviously, Hikari was not trying that hard and is much stronger than him, but because he underestimated him, he was able to hit Hikari and fulfill the conditions for his curse technique. By drawing an opponent's blood, he can see into the future to fight them, and the more and more blood he draws, the further he can see into the future. Hikari is one of the strongest characters, so he kind of just got unlucky, but he would be a real problem for a big portion of the cast. Just one connection with his weapon, and you kind of just lose for a lot of characters. Definitely underrated as fuck and deserving of our 41st spot. And now, cracking our top 40, we have Ogi, Maki's father. He claims to us that his technique is superior than Naobito's, but only didn't become head of the clan because of his daughters. But that is max cope. Ogi was snorting that shit hard because he is definitely not as strong as Naobito or Naoya. His technique is basically just launching fire from his blade that can be super long and super hot. Problem is, he gets straight up perception blitzed by the freshly awakened Maki. Even this shitter survived longer. Bro is straight up only here off statements because his feats are ass. Then we have Iori, the bomb monkey from the Cullen game. With reverse curse technique and an ability with stronger output, he seems to be clearly above Reggie, for me at least. But like some of the other characters, he just has no scalable feats since his only fight was with Takaba, and there's not that much you can really do against this guy. Next, we have the GOAT, Miguel. Bro is the only character in the entirety of Jujutsu Kaisen to fight both a serious Gojo and Sukuna and survive. The only other character that fought Gojo and Sukuna was Jogo, who got absolutely fried both times. By using his curse technique, his body dances to a rhythm that is more or less just giving him a smaller version of Ultra Instinct, as he's shown dodging all of Sukuna's slashes, laying down some pipe. Also in JJK Volume 0, during the Night Parade of 100 Demons, Gege named Miguel the MVP of the entire night, since Gojo could have ended the whole thing himself. But Goat Gel stalled long gun. Oh my god, holy fuck. But Goat Gel stalled Gojo long enough for Geto to finish his plans. Nailed it. And even against Gojo, he face tanked a lot of punches that would have demolished most characters. Overall, Miguel is the GOAT who exudes aura and deserves his spot up here. Then from one GOAT to the next, we have Choso, Yuji's big brother. Choso is a special grade curse or grade 1 sorcerer who's extremely powerful. He was able to beat Season 2 Yuji, Naoya, one of the strongest grade 1s, and even push Kenjaku enough for him to use this technique. He's also the best user of blood manipulation in the entire verse, having multiple powerful moves, such as Piercing Blood, which cuts through nearly anything, Supernova, which causes a cluster of explosions, reverse curse technique, and finally can harden his blood to such a degree that he can survive a black flash from Sukuna and even protect Yuji from his Fuga. Overall, he's one of the GOATs of this series and we all love him dearly. Now a character who we do not all love dearly is Mei, the Michael Jordan of groomers in anime. But regardless of that, she is extremely powerful. Her strength and speed are top tier while wielding this massive fucking axe that can cut anything. Plus, her curse technique of Bird Strike allows her to use her crows for recon, or she can just kamikaze them into her opponents. This is such a powerful attack that no character in the verse can survive it, aside from Satra Gojo, of course. But we also see you can one-tap special grade curses. Overall, a very strong grade 1, but a special grade groomer. Now in 34th and 35th place, we have the two spokesmen for women's rights everywhere, Naobito and Naoya Zenin. Now they have the exact same curse technique, so I'll basically be ranking them together. But when they were both alive, it was stated Naobito was the fastest alive, aside from Satra Gojo, of course. So considering Naobito was stated to be the fastest while Naoya was alive, he was probably better at using the technique than him. But regardless, this power is immense, as these guys can easily overpower special grade curses and even put up a good fight against the freshly awakened Maki. I could put these guys higher, but the plot nerfs these guys so hard. They both refuse to fight with weapons because it's cowardly or something. But let's be so for real. If they had a blade they used in every attack instead of just punching, they could have farmed Dagon before he popped the domain. Choso would have been finished, and even Maki would have lost, as all those punches would have been stab wounds. Tragic, but sure, why not? The plot must commence. Then one higher in 33rd, we have a top 5 GOAT of the series in Aoi Todo. This guy is the GOAT, no ands, ifs, or buts about it. Smartest character in nearly all of anime with his 530,000 IQ, plus immense physical strength, being one of the best curse techniques in the show in the Boogie Woogie. By clapping his hands, he can switch the position of 2 targets with curse energy. And as we've seen, every time it's used, the opponent is constantly getting stun locked and flashbanged as they're all in the blender. But later in the story, he loses an arm while attaching a Vibra Slap to it. So now he can switch positions up to 50 times a second. Even Sukuna, the final boss of the story, said this is basically impossible to adapt to. As a single character, he's strong, but like some other characters, he really shines in group fights. With Yuji at his side, they have a 100% win rate in fights throughout the series. When it's time to jump someone with Todo, you have better odds of winning the lottery than winning the fight. He even earned the respect of Sukuna at the end of the Shinjuku Showdown. Overall, my GOAT and one of the most unslanderable characters in the story. To be in the JJK universe and to never get slandered by the community is one of the more impressive feats on its own, as literally everyone else has been slandered. The next two are kind of odd to rank, but I have Kusakabe and Usame. The two strongest grade 1s are confirmed by the rest of the cast. I'd say Kusakabe is the clear top dog, as it's kind of just stated. And also during the Gojo Sukuna fight, he was by far the most knowledgeable in what was going on. He also ran the ones with Sukuna for at least a few brief moments, landing some attacks. And when it comes to Usame, he's literally just this mysterious character who for some reason Gojo and Mei hate. But when they asked everyone who the strongest grade 1 is, everyone says Kusakabe, but he says anyone but him and Usame, so maybe it's alluding to the fact that he's also near the top. Either way, it's a complete guess, but we've never even seen him in a panel. Then at the very top of grade 1, this one is a little weird because I'd assume 99% of you guys completely forgot this guy existed. This guy randomly appears while Maki is fighting Curse Naoya, and he steals her blade, and the second he touches it, Maki, Kamo, and even Curse Naoya himself all shudder in fear because it wasn't the cursed energy they were sensing, it was sheer lethality. Apparently, he used to be a master swordsman with no equal, and even without being able to see Naoya, he was laying pipe, outperforming Maki and Kamo. The fact bro was able to outperform this version of Maki makes him easily top of grade 1 in my opinion. So yeah, definitely a super unexpected character, but deserved at the least. Next, for our 13 through 29 fighters, I have low special grade. I'm aware that special grade in the manga means the ability to take over a nation, but just for the sake of this video, we'll be removing that. Instead, we're just going to have low special grade, mid special grade, and high special grade. Just think of them as tiers above, just like all the rest. But with that aside, in 29th place, we have Principal Yaga. Truthfully, I just assumed he was a mid-level sorcerer with potential to create an army of cursed corpses, but apparently he was already a respectable grade 1 before Gojo and Geto even joined the school. But yeah, as all of you are aware, he's only up here because the higher-ups believed he could theoretically create a cursed corpse army, which could overwhelm anyone if he made enough. But on his own, he's definitely just a, mid-level grade 1. Next, in 28th, we have Mekamaru. In his generic default form, he's definitely not above any grade 1 sorcerers, but the reason we all know he's up here is because his Giga Ultimate Mech form. By storing up cursed energy for multiple years, he pours it all into his super mech, which even Kenjaku himself stated has special grade output while piloting this. But in general, for Yaga and Mekamaru, they just make it up here on weird technicalities and final forms. But now every character above them are just monsters in their own right. Now in 27th, we have Dagon. In my opinion, he's the weakest disaster curse. We really saw what he could do in the Shibuya incident when fighting Maki, Naobito, and Nanami. He was low-key getting diddled before he popped his domain. Speaking of domains, this is the first character on our list to have a domain, and this will be a theme for more characters than not up here. A domain is the pinnacle of Jujutsu for any sorcerer, in which you surround your opponent in a barrier and imbue it with your own curse technique, which buffs the user's stats and lets your curse technique hit no matter what. And once in his domain, he was easily able to overpower all three of them. Unfortunately for him, his technique was kind of weak, as he was unable to finish any of them off before Toji came in, slapping him with his Schmeat. But just barely above him, we have Hanami, definitely the two weakest disaster curses. If you wanted to switch these two, I wouldn't really care. But Hanami is the tankiest out of the four, and the only real time we get to see a fight was against Todo and Yuji. Main reason I think Hanami would beat Dagon is just how fucking tanky he is. It took insane combos and punishment from these two monsters and just tanked it for an insane amount of time. Plus, he also ate like 5+ black flashes from Yuji. Definitely no small feat. Plus, like Dagon, it actually does have a domain. Don't forget, the only problem is we never actually saw it because the second it was about to do it, Gojo came in, slapping it with his Schmeat. Now, don't know exactly what it would have done, but maybe if it had something to do with their plants instantly attaching to the opponent, it would have been kind of a guaranteed win at that point, but that's just speculation. Finally, cracking the top 25, we have narratively the weakest member of the Sendai colony, Deadlock in Druve. We don't know much about this guy, but considering he was even in a deadlock with Kurushi, Ryu, and Uro, he must scale at least at the bottom of all of them. And I guess I never said it, but the reason, in my opinion, he's narratively implied to be the weakest out of the four is he just got diddled off screen. Now, speaking of the Deadlock members, we have the cockroach curse himself, Kurushi. This thing was low-key a problem in the colony and even overpowered Yuta, even if he was holding back a bit. His control over cursed roaches is a massive area attack that not a lot of characters even have the tools to deal with, and just overall his power and speed are top tier. Plus, if I had to fight a roach monster, I'd probably just kill my
I'll burn you to death!
Now, in between the 4 deadlock players, we have Jogo. Definitely the most destructive out of all the disaster curses. It's hard to accurately scale him because the only 2 times he fought people were Gojo and Sukuna, and there's not much you can do about that. He was stated to be a level above Dagon, and I mean, if you watch the fight against Sukuna, it's kind of obvious. His destructive output is enough to completely destroy an entire city without even trying. Plus, like the other 2, he has a domain. Not much to really say about him other than he got cucked by the author with his 2 opponents. Before you start click-clacking away in the comments, 1, she's down here because of her 5-minute time limit, and 2, you may be asking me why am I ranking her separately to Yuta. The answer is because it's my video. Why not? Yuta, when I rank him, will obviously have Rika at his side. I just thought it'd be interesting to see where I would put her with the 5-minute timer. Obviously, without the 5-minute limit, she's probably much higher in the list, but in only 5 minutes, I still think she eviscerates everyone in the list below her, except for like certain hacks characters that would stall her out. Her cursed energy is near boundless every time it's described, and she has the physical strength to completely hold down Season 2 Yuji, while even Sukuna himself acknowledged her power. But with only 5 minutes on the clock, I don't think she would be able to out DPS anyone else in the list above her fast enough. So yeah, just completely by herself in 5 minutes, I believe she solos the entire list below her.
I see that you can use reverse cursed technique.
But funnily enough, in 21st, we have the second strongest deadlock member in Euro. One of the only characters we do see 1v1 Rika. She has the power of sky manipulation, in which she can literally grab the sky and use it to however she sees fit. Like other characters on this list, she also has a domain, even though we never see what it does. And I do believe she's narratively implied to be the second strongest alongside Ryo, considering they're on like art pieces together. Plus, it was these 2 in the domain expansion and not Druve or Kodorushi. But yeah, in the final episode of Season 3, we really see what she can do fighting against Rika, Yuta, and Ryo and performing very well. And then, as a surprise to no one, Ryo is the strongest member of the deadlock. His ability is Cursed Energy Discharge, which basically just allows him to shoot cursed energy through his cannon on his head. He was also stated to have the highest cursed energy output in the Culling games, which includes Yuta, who has more overall cursed energy than Gojo. He has a domain, as we saw, and then finally, once again, I feel like I shouldn't have to explain this, but narratively, it was very strongly implied he's the strongest out of the 4 of them, with it only being him and Yuta standing in the end. I'd say his best feat is matching and overpowering a full-powered blast from Yuta and Rika, who, mind you, is stated to have like boundless cursed energy. Boundless is a synonym for infinite, so do with that information what you will. But yeah, overall, Ryo's a Giga Chad and deserving of being our first character to break the top 20. Next is Hikari and Urame in 18th and 19th place respectively. Now out of these 2, it really doesn't matter who you think's stronger because they're shown to be practically equal as they fought off screen during the Shinjuku Showdown with seemingly no ground made by either fighter. Now if you put a gun to my head and say pick, I'd probably lean Hikari, mainly just because it's actually impossible for him to run out of energy or stamina. So if they kept going, he'd probably eventually win. But going through each of their powers, we can start off with Hikari first. This guy's technique revolves completely around luck. To put it as simply as possible, when he activates his domain, roulette wheel spins infinitely until he hits the jackpot. It's a 1 in 239 chance of hitting, but he claims it's never taken him more than 30 rolls to hit. If this jackpot hits, he is granted infinite cursed energy for 4 minutes and 11 seconds, making him effectively immortal as his body automatically does reverse curse technique when any damage is taken. You can kill him in this mode, but in order to do so, you have to completely destroy his head or his entire being. But that's a lot easier said than done, as he's easily one of the fastest and strongest characters in the entire show. He even bested Kashimo in a 1v1, even if he didn't go all out. Still super impressive. Then on the other side, we have Rame, Sukuna's right-hand man. She has insane control over ice and can completely negate multiple grade 1 level sorcerers without any effort that we saw at the end of the Shibuya incident. Kusakabe, as we stated, was the strongest grade 1, and he said her powers are completely out of her control. We don't know if she has a domain, but I would maybe assume so. Either way, she's still ridiculously strong. Now in 17th place, we have Mahito, the main villain of Season 2. He's definitely an interesting one to rank because a lot of these characters underneath him are more destructive. The problem is he gets a good bonus and push to the top of the list because of the fact that very few characters could even kill him. In order to deal any damage to him, you have to be aware of the soul itself and hit his soul. Yuji had Sukuna inhabiting him, so he was the perfect counter as he was aware of how to detect the soul. The other way you could beat him is just complete annihilation. Like, Gojo can't detect the soul, but either way, a purple is sending him to the Shadow Realm. But even without his weird hacks, on his own, he's a true monster and easily the strongest out of the disaster curses. At full power, his armor is stronger than Shoso's armor, which tanked a Black Flash from Sukuna and even protected Yuji from Fuga, which means Jogo's fire isn't doing nothing to him. He can easily dispose of most grade 1 sorcerers such as Todo, and he has a top 3 domain in the entire series because of how disgustingly strong his curse technique is. Idol Transfiguration allows him to change the shape of one's soul, and if he touches you, you just die. So in a domain which makes curse techniques guaranteed to hit, it's pretty much instant victory unless you have your own domain or some sort of technique to counter it. His speed and power is enough to keep up at the end with Season 2 Yuji, who at this point is a monster in his own right. Overall, super strong character with super strong hacks. It's always going to be a good recipe for success.
Filthy monkey who can't even use Jujutsu.
Next one higher, I'll be putting Geto, the fraud special grade. Okay, he's not a fraud per se, but he gets no diff by the other 3 special grades in the story. But even with that being true, he still is super strong and does terrorize most of the verse under him. His technique is curse manipulation, which allows him to basically Pokemon catch and enslave any curse he comes across. This gives him a mass array of options to use in a fight to be as adaptable as possible. And it's the reason he's even special grade to begin with. Being special grade just means you have the power to overthrow a nation. If he were to release thousands of curses on a country, you can kind of see why he's ranked this. He also has a relatively strong hand-to-hand combat, as we saw earlier in the video. The only problem is he doesn't have a domain, and there's lots of characters under him who are weaker but would win. And I know people will say he was in the story before domains were introduced. Unlucky, lil bro. He still doesn't have one, or at least not that we saw. Overall, strong character, but definitely gets eclipsed by some others.
I'll be dying first. Let me see your best shot.
Now in 15th, with the potential to go higher, we have Megami, easily the most slandered character in the show and quite possibly of all of anime. He's actually a very strong sorcerer regardless. With the 10 Shadows technique, he's super versatile in battle, as we've seen him survive a bloodlusted Toji for at least a few minutes, which is a pretty good feat. Plus, he has a domain, even if incomplete. And then, as mentioned previously before, he arguably has a top 3 to 5 battle IQ in the entire verse, showing time and time again how smart he is. Now, truthfully, even with all this, he would not beat a lot of the characters in this tier. We all know why he's up here. He kind of has the most bullshit ace up his sleeve that'll guarantee him at least a draw with 99.99% of the cast. Maharaga is a true monster that only a small handful of characters could even kill. So, like, even though he'll die spawning this thing, you're not gonna win.
Guilty. Confiscation.
But nearing the top of our low special grade tier, we have Higuruma the GOAT. This guy is a Jujutsu prodigy, with him becoming grade 1 within 12 days of becoming a sorcerer. The way he starts every fight is just by popping his domain, because his domain is so busted. He used to be a lawyer, so in his domain, it puts his opponent on trial. They'll randomly pick something you've done in your life, and if you're found guilty by judgment, you will receive confiscation, which will unequivocally diddle you. Best case scenario for you is that you're holding a weapon, because if you are, it'll be stolen, never to be received again. That is the best case scenario. If you don't have a weapon, it'll strip you of your curse technique for a bit, which makes 95% of sorcerers powerless as they rely too heavily on them. And finally, if you don't have a weapon or no innate technique like Yuji, it will literally strip you of all of your cursed energy, reverting you back to being a default human. And at that point, you're gonna die. This allowed him to easily gain 100 points in the Cullen games and dominate the colony. But on top of all this, if you're convicted of a crime bad enough, you get the death penalty, which gives him the Executioner Blade, which can one-shot anyone it touches. If you pair this guy with Ranta or Inumaki, you'd actually just win any fight by default. Plus, on top of all this, he has reverse curse technique and was praised by Sukuna himself. So yeah. Overall, this guy's a true monster.
Women are equal and they deserve respect. Just kidding, they should suck my...
Then at the very top of the low special grade tier, we have Cursed Naoya. This guy was a demon. As a curse, his power and speed vastly increased while he was still able to use his original curse technique, giving him insane speeds. Now, as I mentioned before, there's one random dude who's kind of cooking him, so why is he ranked so high? It's because he unironically has like a top 3 domain in the entire series. With this curse technique, if he touches you, you have to state your 24 movements within a second, and if you fail, you get frozen. Obviously, no one's doing this since they don't even know how the technique works. So if they get touched, they're frozen. But now in its domain, it's always active, but to an even stronger degree at the cellular level. If you move at all, you get all fucked up and take massive damage. So in this domain, you can't move. So yeah, with that broken ass domain, he quite comfortably takes the top spot of our low special grade tier. Next up though, ladies and gentlemen, we move up to the mid special grade tier. These are the guys that are extremely powerful and just maug everyone below them.
五条悟は俺が殺した。
Starting off with our 11th, again 12th place spots, we have Toji and Maki. They'll be ranked together for obvious reasons. And I'll just say it now. If you're one of those guys who thinks Toji or Maki is way stronger than the other, you're just a dumbass. When Maki fought Naoya and awakened, it literally says a demonic fighter equal to Toji Zenin was fully realized. The definition of fully realized is literally describing something that has been developed to its highest, most complete, or intended potential. Or in other terms, her ceiling. But people say shit like, but she got stronger after the Sukuna fight. Literally how? And it's not even like she can improve her cursed energy output, because she doesn't have any. Truth is, her and Toji have equal stats across the board, so the only difference in their strength is their experience. And because Toji has more years under his belt, I'd put him above her, even if just by a tiny bit. I've also seen people say on TikTok you're sexist for saying Toji's stronger, and like, are you okay? But back to their actual scaling at this level of strength, you can just no-diff most of the verse without breaking a sweat. Dagon, who is diddling multiple grade 1s, was actually getting unconsensually diddled by Toji in that domain. The raw speed and power is just too much to handle for most of the cast.
I like a tall woman with a nice big ass.
Entering in 10th place, we have Itadori Yuji, a physical demon who ultimately defeated and bested Sukuna. Now, I just made a full comprehensive guide of his strength throughout the series, including Modula, but this video won't include it, mainly as I said earlier, I really don't want to reread this shit. But even without the Modula buff, he deserves a spot up here. He can match and probably best Toji and Maki's speed, and he definitely outclasses them in terms of raw power, while also having better fighting prowess than Maki herself. Plus, on top of that, having two separate curse techniques being Shoso's blood manipulation and Sukuna's shrine embedded within him. Plus, he has simple domain, he's the best Black Flash user in the verse, he has reverse curse technique, soul punches, soul slashes, and then finally his own domain which rains down soul dismantles. Overall, a true prodigy as he went from default human to top 10 in the verse within only 6 months. Next, entering 9th place, we have Yorozu. I realized in the last video I called her Yaoyorozu from My Hero, so that's unfortunate, I guess. But regardless, she is a true monster. She was considered extremely strong in comparison to her peers in the high-end era during the golden age of Jujutsu, and we definitely can see why. Ryo and Yuro were unbelievably strong, but they got instantly fucked by Sukuna. But Yorozu was actually able to land some blows on him in their fight, which is pretty impressive. Her curse technique is creation, and she uses liquid metal to form a super strong insect armor. Using this armor, she single-handedly defeated the 5 generals that equaled the Sun, Moon, and Star Squad that Yuro led. But her ultimate weapon is creating a perfect sphere using her metal. In real life, a true sphere is more an idea, not a reality, as it would technically have 0 surface area and generate infinite pressure. In layman terms, it basically means it deletes anything it touches. Unironically, probably stronger than Gojo's purple. Then once she activates her domain, it makes it so that unless you counter it, you insta die because it'll touch you. Overall, one of the most busted characters in the whole verse. She would have been a problem for anyone else if she didn't fight Sukuna. Now though, ladies and gentlemen, we are in the high special grade tier of power. These guys low diff most of the verse and can pretty much only lose to other high special grades or above. Now I want you to keep in mind that all 5 of these characters are very interchangeable in terms of power and hacks. So if you wanted, you could put any of these guys at the top of this tier. I'm just going to give you my opinion. And if you disagree, at least listen to my reasoning before you start typing in the comments.
全プレイヤーの情報を開示させろ。
So without further ado, at the bottom of high special grade, we have the GOAT femboy himself, Hajime Kashima. He was the strongest of his era, and we see why, as he absolutely was dogging on everyone in this colony. His curse energy kind of like takes the form of electricity, so by having it, it makes him immune to it, plus it makes his base speed and power very strong. While he can also summon bolts of electricity to throw at his opponents, cutting through them. We see this in his fight against Akari. It's an extreme diff fight with Akari barely taking the win. So at his base power, he's already a low special grade fighter. Now obviously, as you all know, why he's up here, because of his curse technique, Mythical Beast Amber. By converting his flesh into raw energy, his stats dramatically shoot up as he could beat blitz most of the cast. The reason he's definitely at the bottom for me is the fact that we all know he can only use his technique once, as he converts his being into energy until he eventually burns out like a candle. I do believe he maybe could scale above everyone in this tier with this form, but there's 2 main problems holding him back. First is the obvious, I just said he fucking dies after using it. So this tier of strength can only be achieved once, while anyone else in this tier just has it as their default. And even if he does possibly peak in speed and overall strength above these guys, I just truthfully believe they're all strong enough to survive long enough until he inevitably burns out. Not even to mention he does not have access to reverse curse technique or a domain. So overall, I really don't think he can go any higher than this. Next, in 7th, we have one of the coolest characters with the biggest wasted potential in the series, my goat Yuki. The way I like to view Yuki is that she's just a stronger and faster version of Toji with extra hacks on top of it. Her curse technique is Star Rage, which allows her to increase her mass without slowing her down. This allows her to land insanely powerful blows, blowing off Kenjaku's arm with a single punch. We also see her kick her Shikigami thing into Kenjaku's special grade curse, one-tapping it with no effort. Plus, she has a domain, simple domain, and reverse curse technique. And then finally, as a last resort, she can summon a black hole with enough power to destroy the entire planet if she doesn't hold back. So it's literally just a Toji that's faster, stronger, has reverse curse technique, a domain, and can finally summon a black hole. Obviously, that's going to be like a walking nuke with abilities like that. Overall, one of the baddest and one of the most badass characters in this series. Unfortunate we don't get to see more of her.
Don't marry me! I don't want you as my wife!
Now, what if that black hole just magically turned into a jelly bean? Yeah, that's where our number 6 comes in Takaba. He's basically a gag character, so he's kind of impossible to rank, but I have a good reason to put him here and not any higher. His ability is Comedian, which literally allows him to bend reality to his will at whatever he thinks is funny. Now, a lot of people do say he's the strongest in the verse, which just isn't true. Now, obviously, he could solo the verse in theory, but he doesn't even know how his curse technique works, and they say if he ever found out, he would lose its effectiveness. Also, for some reason people don't mention this, but he lost to Kenjaku. If Yuta wasn't the bush camping goat, he dies here. That's why I put Takaba where he did. His technique is insane, but again, some of the smartest characters in the verse, they can use his own technique against him, like how he made him perform in front of a live audience or show him a dead body to kill the mood and deal damage. Like I said, he's a gag character with the hardest ability to scale, but I don't think anyone below him on the list would figure out how to win, so that's why he takes the 6th place spot.
おいでリカ
And then in 4th and 5th place, we have Okotsu, Yuta, and Kenjaku. I don't care how you make these lists, but these two are probably should be the top of this tier, no debate in my mind. We'll go through both of them and I'll explain who I think the top dog is. May as well start with Kenjaku, since I was just talking about him. An ancient sorcerer from over 1,000 years ago with the ability to transfer his brain into different bodies to keep him alive throughout the ages. Currently, he's in Geto's body with access to his curse manipulation, but he wields the technique much better than Geto ever did. He was able to completely negate strong grade 1s like Choso without breaking a sweat, plus his best feat of beating Yuki, and actually I guess also Takaba. Plus, he also has access to Yuji's mother's curse technique of gravity and anti-gravity, which allows him to create an insanely strong field of gravity around him, crushing anyone or anything that gets too close. And on top of it, as we mentioned before, having arguably the highest battle IQ in the entire series. This alone would make him near the top of the list, but what really pushes him to the peak of this tier for me is he's one of the only 2 characters with a barrierless domain. Having a barrierless domain is a divine feat that basically gives the user the ability to win nearly 99% of their domain clashes, as domains are strong on the inside, but weak on the outside to not let people escape. But if it's barrierless, it's breaking in from both sides, which breaks their domain down, letting your sure hit attack land. But then on the other side of the spectrum, we have Yuta Okotsu, the prodigy kid, second only to Satoru Gojo. We already talked about Rika, but yes, you know, he has access to her. But even without her, his speed and strength is absurd since he has some of the most cursed energy in the series. He was able to diddle Kurarushi, Uro, and Ryu in their battle royale alongside killing Kenjaku and doing massive damage to Sukuna. His curse technique is Copy, where if Rika eats a body part of another sorcerer, it's added to his abilities to use in the future. He also has reverse curse technique like Kenjaku and many others, but he's one of the few characters to be able to use it on other people. Plus, having a decent tier domain, definitely not one of the best, unfortunately. But what really puts him over the edge is his connection to Rika. She has nearly boundless curse energy, and he could get refueled by her staying topped up since she can keep feeding him more. And then something that sounds obvious, but I still feel like it needs to be stated, is the simplistic idea, the fact that he can turn any 1v1 into a 2v1. Less than 5 characters could even handle this onslaught, so that's why I gotta give him the top of the high special grades. Now, if you put a gun to my head and asked me to pick between Yuta and Kenjaku, I would take Yuta at extreme diff. I think his stats are all better than Kenjaku's, but the only tricky thing for him to deal with would be the barrierless domain. Regardless, we've seen other characters kind of just tank it, so I would think Yuta would pull through. But like I said before, pretty much every character in this tier is extremely relative, and even though this is the way I chose to organize it, I wouldn't really be mad with any combination of these 5. Okay, so editor Toby here. I'm gonna make one change and say Kenjaku's actually at the top because I reread this chapter. The only reason that Yuki survived his domain is because Tengen broke it. If that didn't happen, Yuki would have died. So yeah, I actually take it back. I think Kenjaku sits nicely at the top because of his domain. But now, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for our Calamity grade demons.
With this treasure, I summon.
And 3rd place, I'm giving it to my goat, Maharaga, the ultimate weapon of the Zenin clan. Once again, before you start click-clacking away, yes, I'm aware he's not really a character, and yes, I'm aware people below him on the list could beat him, but just hear me out before you start molding in the comments. Firstly, just like Rika, I want to rank him by himself because it's my video and it's fun, so why not? Maharaga has to be one of the weirdest characters I've ever seen in anime. He's not even really a character because he's part of a technique, and he's literally never said a word, but no other character in fiction carries the level of aura this motherfucker does. He has the simple ability to adapt to any and all phenomena, no matter what it is. So even though characters like Yuki, Kenjaku, and Yuta could theoretically kill Maharaga in a fight, they will never be able to punch up the same way my goat does. If you fuck around and make a mistake against this guy, you just lose. We even heard in the past there was a character with a 6 eyes technique and limitless like Gojo, and he lost to Mahagoat. No one in the previous tier will ever pull off that feat, let me just tell you that right now. And one thing to also keep in mind is the fact that our entire cast knows about his abilities. Before recently, I don't think most people knew what Maharaga did, so going into a normal fight with him without knowing his powers beforehand, you may just lose by default. Perfect example is Modulo. I know I said I wouldn't bring it up, but in Modulo we see a character claim to be at the same level of Sukuna, and because he doesn't initially know what my goat's doing, he is putting belt to ass on him, looking demonic the entire time when he's doing it. He also has the feats of smashing Gojo's infinite void. What singular other character in the verse have you seen slap Gojo's domain apart with their Schmied? Literally no one. That's why I'm giving Big Raga, our goat, the 3rd place title.
I won't surpass Gojo. Well, look at me.
Now for a surprise placement in 2.5th place, we have Yujo, or basically just someone badly controlling Gojo's body. After being killed by Sukuna, Rika copies Kenjaku's technique and puts Yuta's brain in Gojo's body. He kind of just gets to this spot by default because Gojo's body is cracked, but he was absolutely horrific at using it, as a significantly weaker Sukuna at this point was still able to overpower him. But regardless, it's a weird honorable mention in 2.5th place. And it should be a surprise to no one watching this video. 1st and 2nd goes to the 2 characters who could easily solo the verse without the other one interfering in Satoru Gojo and Ryomen Sukuna. Now, in my literal last video, you should go watch it, it's really good, I spent like 15 minutes breaking down both their powers, so I'm going to speedrun both their abilities. Firstly, Gojo leagues faster and stronger than anyone previously mentioned, wielded the 6 eyes and limitless technique, which allow him to have a permanent force field around him, not letting anything through, unless it's a unique weapon or domain ability. He never runs out of cursed energy because of the 6 eyes. He has the strongest domain in the entire series, which sends infinite information overloading someone's brain, giving him the instant win. He can suck things in with blue or even bend space to teleport. He can use red to launch it away, or finally he can mix them together to create purple, which eviscerates anything it touches. A full powered black flash from him literally knocks Sukuna out standing and left Yuta stun locked from seeing it. Then going to Sukuna, his curse technique is slashes. That's more or less it. His output is almost as much as Gojo's, even without the 6 eyes. Probably top 1 to 2 battle IQs in the series. Has access to a mini nuke in Fuga, has a barrierless domain, and then finally after studying Maharaga fighting Gojo, he gets access to the world cutting slash that cuts through space and reality itself, which gave him the win over Gojo. Now if you want my opinion on who's stronger, my answer is whoever you want. Realistically, there's a perfectly strong argument for either one of them being stronger. Firstly, if you want to argue Sukuna, you can literally say he beat him, or the fact that in the afterlife Gojo says he didn't go all out. But if you want to argue for Gojo, you could say Sukuna needed Maharaga to win and wouldn't have won without it. Or the other argument is the fact that Sukuna wasn't able to lose because of plot. And what I mean by that is Gege couldn't let Gojo win because the writing wouldn't have even made sense, because then literally the entire cast would have nothing to do with the climax of the arc, which would be dumb. Also in an interview, Gege straight up says normal Gojo would have dodged that final attack, but he was caught off guard because he was distracted thinking he had already won. Now, I personally believe Gojo was stronger because the plot was literally against him and he was still 1v4ing Agito, Maharaga, Sukuna, and Gege himself. But I have really no beef with these Sukuna fans because they're both so relative. That's I think the main point I'll say. Anyone of you Gojo or Sukuna fans that claims one is way stronger than the other is genuinely a lobotomite who can't read. You could run this fight back 100 times and it would be a nearly 50-50 split between the two. Their battle was the definition of extreme difficulty. That's also why I don't believe that wasn't going to all out claim, like, okay, falling asleep on purpose, sure, whatever. I think the common consensus the average reader came to was that Gojo was stronger, but Sukuna was smarter. But it doesn't matter because there's still one character above both them I've yet to mention.
Because I'm poor.
Finally, at the top of the list in 0th place, we have the GOAT, Miwa. I feel like I don't really even need to explain much more. This video is already going long enough as is. So yeah, like and subscribe for more content. Once again, thanks to GOAT Yuri for reading the special grade tier of our Patreon. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.